In the Poverty Part 1 video, we've learned that the biggest determinant of a country's wealth creation was economic freedom. Resources and population density don't matter as much. Freedom is important because it allows the poor to work. Since there are always more poor than rich, the numerous poor create a great deal of wealth. Without economic freedom, however, the poor either can't work or must pay a high price for doing so. They create less wealth and their countries are poorer as a result. For example, burdensome regulations on goods and services drive up the cost of goods for consumers without protecting them. Indeed, consumers are often endangered. In the United States, studies compared each state's licensing laws for electricians, optometrists and dentists. States that had the most stringent licensing laws had more accidental electrocutions, more blindness and poorer dental hygiene. As regulations increased, so did the cost, both in time and money, for people to legally work in their chosen profession. Since fewer people could afford to become licensed, fewer practitioners were charging higher fees for services. The poor either did without or tried to do the repairs themselves, harming themselves in the process. John Stossel demonstrated the problem with licensing laws by opening a business selling frisbees in New York, Hong Kong and India. In New York, it took 2 weeks. In Hong Kong, the region with the most economic freedom, it took an afternoon. In India, however, the process was 5 years long, with no guarantee that the license would ever be issued. The poor can't afford the time and money to go through this process. As you can see, in countries with little economic freedom, the cost of getting a license to do business, both in time and money, is much more than in countries with more economic freedom. The poor must work in the black market and bribe the government officials to look the other way. Licensing laws in the United States have stopped African American hairstylists from braiding hair without a cosmetology license, stopped people who haven't lived in the state at least 10 years from getting a liquor license, prohibited many home-based businesses, even for authors writing books, and prevented new taxi owners from serving customers. Fast forward to 2019 and cabbies count about 230,000 rides per day, less than a half of what they sold just 7 years ago. People are poor because the money they earn is not enough to pay the ever-rising prices of food, clothing and shelter that would maintain or improve their standard of living. Why do prices continually go up instead of staying the same or falling? Prices are rising because the government is always spending more than it takes in, printing money to make up the difference. When the supply of money rises faster than the supply of goods and services, the general prices rise. The government overspending is a perpetual cause of inflation. An increase in price is the same thing as a cut in the workers' pay. As a result, people clamor for increased minimum wages or even some kind of a guaranteed wage. A rise in the legal minimum wage forces employers to raise prices for their customers. As product prices rise, customers buy fewer products. To stay in business, employers have to lower their costs by laying off workers, cutting back on the hours of work, replacing workers with machines, or moving across the border. While some workers get pay raises, others are laid off and get no wages at all. The more senior and experienced workers are the ones who keep their jobs, while the workers that are being fired are younger and less experienced. Since the less experienced can no longer be paid a low wage to get on-the-job experience, they either remain unemployed or must pay a tuition to learn new skills. Economist Walter Williams explained in his book The State Against Blacks that a large surplus of unemployed allows employer to discriminate on a non-performance criteria such as age, race, gender or religion. In the 1940s, recounts Williams, the minimum legal wage was low and covered few jobs. the unemployment rate of young white men was 10%, and the unemployment rate of young black men was actually lower at 9%. As the minimum legal wage was raised and as coverage expanded to more jobs, the unemployment rate of young white men nearly doubled to 18%, and the unemployment rate of young black men quadrupled to 37%. Without that first job experience, these unemployed black youths have a tougher time getting gainful employment.